It's back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carey, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, welcome back. It is the unofficial 40 podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com podcast, where we've got the entire crew ready to go. It's been a busy week coming off of signing day, so we're recording this on a Thursday. Apologies for being a day later than usual, but we had to we had some stuff to tend to yesterday, and that was signing day. Had a live stream last night. That was a lot of fun. Appreciated everybody being a part of that, and it was a new experience. We had live comments, which led to a pre-show fight between me and Eddie, as usual. So, I'm just a tyrant, Josh. Like I feel like I take everything out on Eddie, and poor George just sits in the corner, like mom and dad are fighting, and that's awkward. But I enjoy the awkwardness.
George is on my team. I was just ready to get up and running.
So was I. That's the thing. We're both trying to get to the same goal. But you don't support me. That's fine.
No, because we don't need to hear from other people. We don't need to hear from the comment section.
I thought that made the podcast or the live stream.
I thought the content.
I enjoyed it. Yeah.
No, I thought it ended up being really good, and I thought the ticker stuff down on the bottom that you worked
tremendous,
basically through the middle hours of the night.
Oh God,
getting done. That ended up being really good with the stuff that George and I did. All of the content on National Signing Day. It's just so weird. Like we talked about it last night, that it just feels like National Signing Day in a way, unless you have one of those guys that you're waiting to hear from. It's just kind of become another day. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not the National Signing Day that everybody was used to in February.
Unless you've had a lot of upheaval in your program, like Florida.
Yeah, sure.
Where people,
which isn't good. I would much rather have no news than losing 5 stars by the basically by the minute.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, look, it shouldn't surprise us. I mean, this stuff is. I mean, how long was DJ Lagway committed to Florida? 2 years.
Yeah,
and he ends up signing with it.
He ends up signing with Florida.
He flirted with Oklahoma for a while.
If Billy Napier would have lost him after losing
the defensive lineman,
Rashada a year ago, you might be looking at a coaching change in Gainesville right now.
Could they do that? That's
not
amazing
probably
to
this
think
late,
about.
But my God, it would be not good, and especially with that schedule coming up next year, it's incredible to me. I know that we mentioned it last night, but Florida losing a couple commits, they end up with the top 15 class in the country. They're 9th in the SEC. I still have a hard time wrapping my head around just kind of everything that is going to be.
We're going to get more to that. I did want to say something kind of off the top here, and it's something I addressed last night on Twitter, and it was spurred on by Dillon Gabriel's tweet that he put out the other day where he was just looking intensely in the camera. And, I think it's to the point I always wanted to address it. And then I think when that thing came out, I was like, okay, well, I basically said I apologize to Dillon Gabriel. Look, I would say this, and I hate going back in the past, and we'll be done with it after this. We are going to talk to Dillon Gabriel today. He'll be on the YouTube. He's going to meet with Eddie and George to do a little interview. And here's the thing. When all that – you go back to last Tuesday when the Sooners were out practicing. Caden Green was packing up his shit and leaving. It sparked this crazy set of rumors and reports and all this stuff of what was going on. Because then we found out, essentially, that Caden Green and the NIL people, whoever those people are, had come to an understanding of what he would be getting paid. And apparently somewhere along the line there was some talks. I think I would best describe it as, he had a one-on-one with Brent Venables, and, something happened in that meeting that made him upset, and I think it was just Brent being a football coach, kind of giving him the, hey, now that this is all settled, you got to be a better player, because you're talking about being one of the highest paid guys on the team, and we don't want to disrupt the locker room. and you look at your performance. I mean, you've got to be better. I think it was something. I'm not saying that's what it was, but it was something along those lines. And I think Caden Green came out of that meeting thinking he doesn't think I'm worth what I'm getting paid or something. And and then it turned into he relayed his view of that meeting to his family, and then it went south really fast. So we're sorting through all that stuff, and then Dan Lanning shows up in town, staying over at the Noun Hotel, which is just a block away from us. And it was confirmed that he was here. And there was so much emotion just throughout the program, the coaching staff, the administration. Like, people were shocked. They were hurt in a little ways. And they legitimately, some people in the OU facility, it was going around that they believed that Dillon Gabriel was, somehow involved in this. And Oregon was supposed to be putting together this massive NIL package to get Caden Green. And Josh and I, we're reaching out to our Missouri people. They're reaching out to us first saying, hey, what's going on? And so we kind of get their side of the story as it's going on. And, Missouri was just waiting for this. If something like this happened, like, they had their feelers out. They knew something was going on. But from what we can tell, Josh, I mean, Missouri had no hand in, I think it was a deal where the family made it to where Caden was available, and then everybody came in. And that's probably the way it happened with Oregon as well. But point being, there was a lot of emotion flying around. And people get up in arms. And a lot of people that are on, Twitter going nuts about this, they're not Sooner Scoop subscribers. They didn't see what I wrote. But I essentially said, this is what's going on. This was on Thursday, 2 days after, that, Dan Lanning was in town. This happened while, Bill Beanbaugh, and at the time we thought that Brent Venables was out of town, but apparently he was in town, but just not out of practice when we were, because he was probably dealing with this crap. And we just thought it was, odd. And the timing of it all was odd, and the fact that it seemed like he was the middle of the night, scurrying out of town so nobody would find out deal. And I put, that Oregon was in town and they may be involved in that, they're going between Dillon Gabriel to talk to Caden and his family. And the way that ended up, I hated it. I never said like he was the mastermind and he was giving it was people made it out like Dillon Gabriel was giving his own money to get Caden Green to go to Oregon, and that he was the one working with Dan Lanning to make sure they had the right recruiting pitch and all this. He may not have been involved at all because, like I said, there was a lot of emotion involved. And me just putting it out there was a mistake on my part, because even though people were telling me that was going on, and I know Eddie even heard some of that from people, like, it just put him in the crosshairs unfairly, because the reason that Caden Green chose a place was not because of any one player that would have said, hey, I mean, we know that, Josh, all the time in recruiting. You have best friends on a team that say they want to play in college together, and one chooses one place and the other chooses the other. And it's not always the same place. But so Dillon Gabriel doesn't have a long enough relationship with him to be the reason that he's going to go to Oregon. So because of that, I regret even mentioning his name at all. Even if he did, try and make a phone call and say, hey, the coach at Oregon really wants to talk to you. Even if that happened, I don't even care. I mean, it's just, I just wanted to say I created a situation I wish I hadn't, and I should have been smarter than to just put his name out there, well, regardless of what I was hearing, or because where it was coming from was a place of panic.
He doesn't accept your apology
from others, not so much.
We'll find out later today, I guess.
Your
yeah, and that's fine if he doesn't.
I have no idea. It's going to be good to catch up with Dillon.
So anyway, Josh, feel free to jump in there as co-owner.
No, no. I mean, and again, I honestly, Carey, until you started this, I hadn't seen your post on Twitter last night, and it was one of those things that I think people don't understand. Like, we talk about it amongst ourselves, and we have it. And Carey's right. There were people that were having this conversation. This didn't come out of nowhere. It wasn't from, but it was a lot of people reeling because all of this, A, happened so fast, and B, so unexpectedly. And so you had a lot of people that were connecting dots and trying to make things add up. And I just think, and I guess for me, part of it was the first school I heard was Oregon. That was the first thing. I didn't hear Missouri. I heard Oregon. And guys, I know enough about members of that staff. They're going to play as fast and loose as they can. Like, and I know that. Like, and guys, we all know what happens in the portal. Assuming these guys in one day know what they're going to do and make up their decision, or Sam Hartman or Riley Leonard go into the portal and say, don't contact me. How do they know what they're doing if they haven't already had feelers out with other schools? Like, this happens all the time. So I don't think anything of it, but at the same time, it's not like it was baseless. Like, and again, the hard part was probably just leaving Dillon out of it, because whether right or wrong, it was going to put him in a light that wasn't fair to him. So, and I'm not coming down on Carey, like he's already said it. So it's just something that I think sometimes we forget how incendiary things can become, because I've had stuff like this where I put something on the board thinking, oh, they're going to like this. And maybe the board was expecting something else. And there are plenty of board members that know exactly the moment I'm talking about right now. And I end up with people pissed off at me when I didn't do anything wrong, but my timing was not good and not helpful, and ends up being a bigger issue than I could have ever anticipated.
Yeah, and I've said that I thought that Dillon Gabriel has been the most impactful transfer for the Oklahoma football program since Josh Heupel. Now, Gabe Eichert came after me. Fuck you, Gabe. No, I'm just kidding. We're very good friends, if people don't know that. No, but we kind of had some fighting about it, and it was just guys being guys. But I mean, Dillon Gabriel's done more for Oklahoma football than any of us will ever do. I mean, just beating Texas, alone is enough to make him legendary in the fashion that he did. And if not for Dillon Gabriel, you can argue, yeah, sure, maybe Jackson Dart would have been here, but it was Dillon Gabriel, man. They went 6-7 last year. He pulled them out of an abyss. And the year he had this year, we were all like, damn. He wanted to go to the NFL, but he didn't get the grade back. So he's done a tremendous amount for Oklahoma football. He should be celebrated and not cursed and, all that stuff. So hopefully we can all just move past this and realize it was just a crazy-ass time. And it's over. And I think that's how the internet usually works, hopefully. So moving on, it is the Enjoy Vision. I need better vision, probably. Josh, people were wanting you to go to Enjoy because they don't want you wearing glasses on the live streams anymore, by the way. It's the Enjoy look around, and Eddie Radosevich has good vision because of Enjoy.
I have perfect vision because of the best laser vision center in Oklahoma City, and it's not even close. The combination of mind-blowing technology, experienced eyeball surgeons, and exceptional patient care was life-changing for me. What they're doing for the Unofficial 40 listener, they're giving $400 off of LASIK. If you are interested in this journey, all you got to do is go to enjoywithme.com. That is the letter NJOY with me.com, and use promo code U40 for $400 off. Enjoy Vision. This is where you LASIK.
All right. So yesterday was signing day. We can get back to the business at hand. Not, as we were saying early, not really a big shock in there. There was some Tatum
drama.
A
little bit. Just a little bit.
That I don't know. I don't know, Josh. What was the whole story on that you were able to? Was there something about his expectation versus reality about what would happen in signing or what he would be doing? Or
I don't think so.
I don't. I think, now I will say, I talked to someone who had said there was definitely a thought of like, okay, maybe I'll push this back to to February, because he wasn't going to be an early enrollee anyways. I think Taylor's fairly practical, pragmatic, however you kind of want to say it. He is going like, why do I need to sign early if I'm not going to be there in January anyway? Like, I think that's kind of how Taylor looked at it. And so I don't think it was his plan not to sign, but I think he considered it. Because obviously he's going to play baseball at Longview and, has that to look forward to. But I don't think it was ever like, oh, he's considering other schools or he's not sure about his decision. I don't think it had anything to do with that. It was kind of, guys, it's a topic that's already come up, and I've been talking to people on Twitter about it this morning. Jay Bateman leaves Florida to go be Texas A&M's defensive coordinator, and it gets announced this morning, right after all those guys sign and make their decisions. And now Florida, and I know our guy, Adam Friedman, guy we worked with for years at Rivals, talked to several commitments that were like, we had no idea. We didn't know this was going to happen. So I think that is more of what he had his eye on. Like, is anything going to happen? Could DeMarco go somewhere? Could there be any other changes of staff that I'm not, that I don't know? And I think that was really the only concern. My guess is DeMarco had a conversation. I'm not going anywhere. I'm good. I'm set here. We're moving forward. So I think that's really what it was more about, more than any school making a run, because I know, talking to some USC sources, I don't think they had their eye on it or anything yesterday. And we all know that was the runner-up to Oklahoma in this thing.
What did Colorado sign, like 5 high school players, and USC signed like 7?
Yeah, I think the final number was 5 for Colorado, and they didn't even get the Jordan Seaton kid. Tough way to live.
That's a circus. The whole Jordan Seaton thing is just insane.
Especially on the heels of his comments about, race and stuff like that, and coaches, and then 2 weeks later he bolts on you. It kind of shows you this shit is not to be taken too seriously.
These are 17-year-old kids, man. Their mind changes, and the things they deem important are different from 1 week to the next, which is part of my whole visit policy thing that everybody loved so much yesterday as I went on a tirade on Twitter.
That was a board, did that start on the board and then you kind of took it to Twitter?
No. I tweeted something completely unrelated, and somebody's like, oh, what do you think of the visit policy now? And I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? And I tweeted, and it was more like, this is my life. I have to argue things that I'm not even talking about. And then everybody was like, well, you were wrong. And then I, of course, got into it probably because it was signing day, and I think we'd crossed over to the threshold, and so I was ready to blow off some steam.
You mean you popped open that 15-year?
There you go.
No, I honestly, the first drink I had last night was right at the beginning of the live stream. So that glass that everybody saw me working on, that was my first glass of alcohol for the evening, and I believe my only glass. I unless I drank a lot and don't remember any of it. But
no,
I'm
you weren't
sure
you weren't like stumbling over yourselves or anything.
That's good.
I think I'm done with everything except 15-year, Josh. It's just it's not. I'm trying not to drink that much anymore, and just going drinking like 3 glasses of Jameson just does nothing for me anymore.
And that's expensive enough that you're like, I can't.
You can't be an alcoholic getting 15-year-old whiskey. It's too expensive.
That's a fact. Yeah. I tend to like 8 to 12 more, and I've got 117 that I really like a lot.
You know what did it for me is I had a 15-year Buffalo Trace, and I thought, my God, that's the best whiskey I've ever had. And then I went and got the regular Buffalo Trace, and you can't even compare the two.
It's not fair. It's just not a fair comparison. So
now I'm on to.
I have a 17 that you're welcome to that I don't like very much.
I'm on to. I think it's Dalwhinnie. I don't know if you've ever had that.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You're more of a Scotch guy than I am. Like, you'll do like Irish whiskey. I'll do a rye every once in a while, but I'm pretty much a bourbon guy all day, every day.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm more into the Scotch for sure. All right. It's hard. I don't know where you want to go. Maybe I need to ask you or Bob. You weren't on the live stream last night, so maybe we should get your perspective on this. But obviously, we talked a lot about the defensive line, which should be talked about. I know every time the offensive line comes up, it becomes a point of contention. But I don't know. You went to the press conference yesterday. You sat through it all. What kind of stood out to you most about the message about this class from Brent Venables yesterday?
I think a sneaky group that wasn't talked about too much is in the secondary. I think what Jay Valai and Brandon Hall have been able to do there is very impressive because, I mean, we're gone from the days of Pat Fields and Turner Yell have to play every single snap. They've been able to build it up slowly but surely, and now with this 7-member group that they'll be bringing in here for next year, I think you're finally gone away from the days of saying they don't have anyone in the back end. And someone like Reggie Powers, despite the fact his announcement came in the fourth quarter of the loss against Kansas, and that was just the most awful timing of all time. But I feel like that was just a sneaky get that, maybe you wouldn't have had 2-3 years ago. And their ability to go state of Ohio and grab someone like that's got so much potential, so much production is just a credit to what those defensive coaches have been able to do the last 2-3 years.
Yeah, and, I know in terms of, like, Brandon Hall, like, when he was younger and he was here, we always called him, Brent's mini-me and stuff. But, Josh, it sure seems like he is really kind of taken to heed that work ethic that Brent has. Like, he is a tireless recruiter.
When you talk about a marriage of a guy that's got his guys playing well on the field and recruiting really well, I don't know that anybody's doing it better than he is right now on that staff. Like, Brandon Hall is reeling in big-time guys at safety, making really good evaluations, and he's got Billy Bowman playing like the guy we all thought Billy Bowman could be out of high school, the guy that we saw flashes of at times the first 2 years. And last year, I guess we can say last year now. I don't know if we're at that point, but in 2023 was at an All-American level. And, coming into the year, I don't think many really outside of us that have covered him since high school and know how talented he is had any expectation of that. Brandon Hall deserves a ton of credit that I don't think he's getting.
You mentioned Billy. I actually go to Robert Spears Jennings and the way that he played, especially in the last month, to where Key Lawrence leaves and you're like, okay, like that's okay. This is what should happen. It's time for Spears Jennings to become that guy that we all think he can, because he's showing enough glimpses, enough consistent glimpses to know that if you put him out there even longer, he's going to do even better.
Yeah, I mean, and of course that forgets, I mean, you hate to say this with Billy there, but maybe the most talented safety on the roster is Peyton Bowen.
Absolutely.
Like, I mean, so it's crazy that you have that coming, and then you have a guy, and, I don't know who all out there has read all of our content from yesterday, and obviously we've still got more coming that's going to come through the weekend. But you look at Reggie Powers, like the guy I picked in our class awards is, I termed it most likely to succeed. He's the guy, if I had to bet my bottom dollar, I'd bet on Reggie Powers. Like, I would bet he is at the very minimum a very good college football player. Do I know that, like, does he have the star potential of a guy like Danny Okoye or a guy like David Stone, or does he play a premier position like those guys do? No, he doesn't. But if I'm just going to say one of these 27 guys are going to be, let's just say, like an all-conference level player, Reggie Powers is where I'd bet my money because I have the fewest questions about him. And then you add in a guy like Boganowski, who's got a ton of upside. Jaden Hardy is a top 200 player that no one ever talks about. Like,
correct,
everybody just kind of forgets about him. And he's a really good player.
I feel like because he went out and saw him and probably noticed some things that you see when you see people in person versus just watch them on tape. But I feel like Eddie's got a little bit of a man crush on Michael Boganowski.
I just think he's a pretty good football player.
Yeah.
I mean, he checked a lot of those boxes in terms of when we go see guys, he immediately pops. It's like, okay, that's him. And then he dominated on both sides of the football. I don't know what more you can ask for a guy, and it seems like he has a good head on his shoulders just in terms of a guy that's going to come in and work his ass off and kind of be one of those really kind of tools that Brent Venables can move all around the defense.
There is something historically, Josh, about Kansas kids. Like, they don't really mess around all that much. I mean, I can't think of a lot of Kansas kids that were just, even if they were just like special teams guys, like, a Jaden Bird or somebody like that, like, or was he a Missouri guy? I can't even remember.
No, he's Kansas.
Kansas guy. But, like, they just kind of keep their heads down and do work. They kind of just have a reputation for that.
It's crazy because, like, you look at it, if you wanted to say, look at all the states that OU has recruited with some frequency, I would say Kansas guys have as good a track record of at least turning into solid college football players. Jaden's probably the least of the bunch, but guys, I mean, you're talking about Jordan Phillips, you're talking about Brody Eldridge, Geno Grissom. Like, you just go down the list. There's a lot of good football players.
The Dozer.
Yeah. Oh, God, how could I forget Blake? I mean, that's crazy when you start to think about it. All the guys Oklahoma's recruited from Kansas and how well they've produced at Oklahoma. Like, I don't know what the rhyme or reason to that is, but part of it is just Oklahoma evaluates really well in that state, and they know they close well. I mean, because they go in there and usually get many of the top players, I guess you'd say.
I would imagine too that when Brent wants a kid, particularly being a guy that is from Kansas, he's going to go in and basically kind of get the pick of the litter. I would imagine that his success rate in Kansas specifically is about as good as it could possibly be.
And again, I mean, like, you've got to think Brent probably takes some special satisfaction in that. Some, like, really making the point to chase those kids. Guys, one we left off the list, and I mean, his story is still kind of unwritten, but Jaron Canick, another Kansas kid that's playing a role for Oklahoma. Amani Bledsoe is another good one that was a good player for Oklahoma. So, I mean, they've had a nice track record in Kansas and obviously have hopes of that continuing with a guy like Boganowski.
What's the I mean, we didn't really get into this last night because we went through pretty much everybody that signed every position, but who is your biggest sleeper in this class?
That's a good question. Because it kind of depends. I'll give two different answers. The first one I would say is, like, if you wanted to say the guy that's like a 3-star that I think has that potential to be that next guy that OU turns into a high round draft pick, the next Lane Johnson or, whatever 3-star you want to list, goes on to become a first or second day kind of pick. I would say Daniel Akinkunmi. Like, I'm a big believer in his potential. Now, everybody's going to have to be patient. And I do think he has the right mindset. I know he's told me, I know he told Eddie and George during the signing day interview about, I want to come in and I want to play early. At the same time, I think he is smart enough to understand if he gets there and he's not ready, he'll know it. Like, he's not one of those guys like, oh, I should be playing. Like, I don't think he has that kind of mentality. Like, I think he's willing to earn whatever he needs to get on the field. And I just see a guy that has a lot of physicality, has a lot of athleticism. He moves well. And I think he's going to play the kind of position where you could see him becoming somebody. Now, as far as a guy that is maybe underrated and just going to be a very good player, I might lean probably to Jaden Jackson, just because I think Jaden Jackson's going to be a really good football player. He would probably be 1B to my conversation about Reggie Powers, where I say I don't have a lot of doubts about Reggie Powers. I don't have a lot of doubts about Jaden Jackson. I expect him to be a good football player. It won't shock me at all if he's helping OU next year. And, guys, he's one of the guys, and we can talk about some of these dudes, that is already there in Norman that is starting to take part in practices today, with Michael Hawkins and some of the others.
What I just heard is David Stone is Tommy Harris and Jaden Jackson is Dusty Dvorak.
It could be. I mean, David has
destined to be blocked.
David has a
Jackson
top 10
someday.
future. Like that's in the cards for him. That's possible. He's so special. He's so athletic. He's so long. And the thing that I was most impressed with when I saw him, because I saw David in a game as a sophomore at Del City. I didn't see him as a junior. I mean, I saw him at some camp events and that kind of stuff, but I didn't see him again until he was a senior, near the tail end of his year. I think his second to last game at IMG. And the growth was just undeniable. I mean, like, he had physically matured, he'd mentally matured. He's so much tougher than the kid I saw as a sophomore. And I don't mean to say that he was soft. He just understands the work. And whatever else you want to say about IMG, and Brent talked about it yesterday, there is clearly a expectation. It's kind of like when you go to junior college. Nobody's holding your hand anymore, man. Like, you're going to have to go do this. You go to IMG, they expect you to be on time. They expect you to do the things you're supposed to do. And if they coach you to do something, they don't want to repeat themselves. They expect you to learn and move forward and continue to grow your game and grow your knowledge base. And so I think that's going to help David immensely. To me, my only question with David is, how is he going to carry weight? Because he's probably about 275 pounds right now. That can't play defensive tackle in the SEC. He's going to have to get at least 295. He's going to have to get bigger if he wants to be that 3-tech guy. Now, maybe OU does some stuff and he's a 4-eye. They do some 3-down type front stuff to get David on the field, because he's dynamic enough that you do want to build some things around him, even fairly early. I mean, you want to give him as many opportunities to impact the game as he can. So that's going to be the interesting question. And that's really my only question with David. How is he going to change his body over the next 3 or 4 years, to become the kind of player he's capable of becoming?
I think people asked this question. It wasn't answered last night. There was so much going on. I'm not blaming anybody, but I thought it was a good question. Who will have the better career, Danny Okoye or David Stone, when it's all said and done?
Oh, that's brutal. That's brutal.
That's a rough one.
I mean, it's asking you to predict the future, basically, so it's probably not fair. But going into it, how about this? Which one do you think will have the most success early? Because I think physically, here's my thought. Physically, Danny Okoye is everything you want him to be, but he hasn't played at a high level like David Stone has.
He's got a lot of guys at end, especially if Trace Ford comes back. Downs, Ford, R. Mason Thomas, PJ. There's a lot of guys he'd have to try to fight, bust on through.
But with all of those guys being there, Bob, none of them truly impacted the pass rush this year. Like, there was no point in the year when OU's defensive ends were dominant in the pass game. And
Correct.
Danny has that kind of ability. And that's why if you made me pick, I would say Danny, because again, with David, I think there's going to be some positional flexibility. I wonder if he plays some defensive end in year one as they continue to get him bigger and stronger, kind of like Jonah Laulu. It's interesting. Laulu. God, why do I do that every time? But with Jonah, that was clearly the plan. So, and honestly, I'm just kind of having this thought, is I wonder if he's going to be on a very similar plan to what Jonah was. Like, do they start him at defensive end, let him get bigger, let him work with Schmidt for a couple springs, and then, okay, he's ready to move into defensive tackle and be the guy for OU in 2025. That's an interesting idea that I don't think I've really considered a lot, but I think that's just kind of something I'm talking through here. But with Danny's a defensive end, and Danny is going to arrive and be one of Oklahoma's most physically impressive defensive linemen from the minute go. And I would say, shortly, a week ago, I would have answered this David Stone, because I think the questions about David are more manageable. But watching Danny in that Army Bowl where he just dominates a bunch of Division I prospects, something tells me they're going to find a way to get him on the field, and they're going to find a way for his ability to be unleashed. I mean, if you could find scenarios where he and PJ are opposite each other, that's when you start really, if those guys are the guys that we think they are, that's how quarterbacks start having real problems with Oklahoma's defense.
This isn't a knock on PJ, but is Danny more ready going into college than PJ was?
I think just because of the physical nature, like PJ is like, you guys, PJ is so long. Like, it's just hard for people to understand that a guy that is 6'4", 6'5", and has, arms that, that reach his knees. Like, I mean, he is so incredibly long. So when you're long levered like that, it's harder to develop mass and develop the strength that you need and become the powerful guy that you need to be in the run game, and not just be, this explosive, twitchy athlete on the outside. So I think Danny is more physically ready for the game, but at the same time, PJ played better competition. So there's kind of there's a give and take there. But yeah, I don't think that's unfair to say, Bob, just because Danny's body type is a little different, and he's physically, like, he's put on mass at an earlier age than PJ did.
I'm not going to lie. That clip we had last night with Okoye, where he takes the snap and runs around and makes a cut on the sideline, I mean, that's just a holy shit moment.
And you go and watch his highlights, they're all over the place. Like, just him, guys, I go back to this one, and I think, Eddie, were you there at the Cassidy game, or was that?
No, Bob was.
Bob went. Okay. I was like, we had somebody there, and Danny got ejected.
Yes, in the second half.
For a hit in the second half. And, like, I wake up that Saturday morning afterwards, everybody's like, oh, Danny Okoye, it was a dirty hit last night. You should have seen it, blah, blah, blah. Well, his coach sends me the tape. There wasn't a damn thing dirty about it. Danny is just humongous and fast and just clobbered this poor kid. And it wasn't his fault. He's just playing the game the way, his ability allows him to play. And he's playing with a bunch of kids who can't reach that level. And so it looked nasty, and he gets ejected, and it was this whole thing. But as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's bull. Like, Danny's just doing what he does. And he faced a lot of that. Like, the game I went to, there were fans on the opposing sideline screaming at him, like, oh, he shouldn't be out here, blah, blah, blah. He's dirty. He's cheating. Danny wouldn't do anything wrong. Like, it's just when you have to deal with your talent is so far beyond everybody else's on the field, you get into these shouting arguments, or in this case, a shouting argument, but you get into these situations where people want to explain away that you shouldn't be on the field when Danny had every right to be there. So it's just, for me, the only question for Danny is, how great does he want to be? If he wants to be great, Danny will be special. It's just about, is he locked in? Because we all know Danny's social and he has a lot of fun and that kind of stuff. But can he, when he needs to be in that zone where football is important to him? It's not unlike another Danny. It's a lot like the Danny Sussman conversation, where Brent talked about how Danny's a great football player and he's a lot of fun, but he's got to be here when he's here.
And we've seen it go the right way, and then, as Carey mentioned this morning, we've seen it go the other way with someone like Stacey Wilkins. We know how quickly that all
I didn't bring him up. I mean, it's just like
he's still around.
I just couldn't believe he was still around. I mean, he's apparently looking for another place to go. Sorry, we're having some audio issues. I'm not sure what is causing that. But, no, I just saw that, and I was like, I can't believe Stacey Wilkins is still playing football. So.
And again, that's the thing with a guy like Danny Okoye. Stacey was of that same, like, exactly. Do you want to be great?
Right.
Because Stacey had all the talent in the world. I mean, just could be anything he wanted to be. And clearly that didn't happen. And I like Stacey. He's a good guy, like, no problems with him. But people don't realize, like, to be that great, there is a lot you have to do and be willing to sacrifice. And it's hard to know until the guys are in the situation.
We'll get back to some football, and George will be coming up. We'll talk some more. But I think it's important we take some time out, talk a little hoops.
All right.
I mean, it's bad because, if we would have done the pod yesterday, you could have been talking excitingly still about Josh has left the chat.
Oh, my goodness. I love it.
I watched some last night.
I love it.
It was just rough because, they never could make that run to get back in it after they got down early.
So many no-shows.
Didn't shoot well. J.V. McCollum didn't play well.
Until the end.
Until close to the end. And really, Godwin fouls out, which you thought might be an issue with him and Baycott. But they, Hughley really didn't give him anything last night. Missed free throws, missed three-pointers, just kind of a body out there. And it was It really did seem to me to be the cliche, Bob, that the moment was a little too big for them last night.
A reminder of how much further they still have to come. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, you can't have Godwin, Hughley combined for 2 points. We've been talking about how they've been getting like 20 and 10 combined or 20 and like 15 combined. 2 points. You're not going to win any games in the Big 12 when you're 5-man. That's what you're getting from that entire production. And then McCollum, he was 2 for 11. And when he got going, all of a sudden the game got competitive. They got it down to 5, never got closer. But you saw, like, when Javion can figure out what he needs to do and how to be effective, how quickly things change for the Sooners. It was just way too little and way too late Wednesday.
I thought it was maybe more encouraging last night, just in terms of a performance. I thought it was more encouraging the way that they were able to scrap that together, not playing well, than I think I would have been on the flip side if you woke up today and they would have won by 15. I'm dead serious.
That's more.
I think you guys are more down on this team than I was. Really encouraged last night.
We just talked about what didn't go well.
Right. I think the second half was a blueprint of how, like, okay, they are competitive. They are one of the better teams. Maybe not a top
They're not
10.
a fraud. I mean,
no.
You think we're saying that they're frauds? No.
Little bit.
Well, you're being no.
Little bit.
Nobody's saying they're frauds. That never came out of our mouths.
I think that I thought it was very encouraging.
Basketball team. A little overly protective, I think.
No, I just think
Like
they played. Dad. All right, whatever, Carey.
I think they weren't in a position Wednesday to look for a moral victory. I think they wanted a real victory. And the fact, I think that's where we came. It's like, oh, they can't compete. They can't compete. Yeah, but now you got to win. You got to win these games too, because outside of the Providence beating Marquette, which finally kind of helped, those early season wins haven't resonated, and we'll see if that changes in the weeks to come. But you liked how they responded in the second half, because when it was 63-48, that could have went 20-25 very quickly. Instead, it went 70-65, and you saw them try to still fight and try to make it a game.
Turn the ball over 10 times and go 1 for 10 in the first half from 3 too. I mean,
they had 18 turnovers. It wasn't, the turnovers were just an issue the entire night. Yeah,
but especially in the first half, they should have been down by 20 at halftime. They were down by 8.
Well, and to your point, I did come away encouraged because they didn't look like frauds last night. So
I mean, Otega Owe was playing his 39th game. He's a sophomore. He dropped 23 on North Carolina. I think in the long run, they're going to look back at that, and that's going to be a nice little learning lesson, because they're going to be in a bunch of games moving forward, especially when you get into conference play, that you're going to be in tight games with really good teams.
And that's where McCollum, Godwin, Hughley, that's where they have to learn. That's where your hope, the get better tape session that Moser has after every game, that's going to be a lot of Godwin, Hughley, and Javion. And, okay, this is what you guys are going to have to figure out if we're going to be as competitive as we believe we should be the rest of the way.
All right, we'll take a little time out here, and we'll bring George in to finish off. By the way, deadsoxy.com. Don't forget, go check them out, deadsoxy.com. 25% off. Use that promo code SCOOP for 25% off your entire order, even sale items. So go check them out. Great sock company, great customer service. That's deadsoxy.com, deadsoxy. And use that promo code SCOOP for that 25% off. All right, George Stoya is with us now. Bob has taken his leave. And I don't know, did you watch any hoops last night, George?
I did. I was at a birthday party bowling, but I did watch most of the game.
An adult birthday party?
I mean, 27,
okay.
27. So if that's an adult, yes.
I mean, I imagine it's fun.
I don't know. They played like shit. That happens.
Yeah. No, I mean,
they weren't going to go undefeated. So you play like shit. You shoot like shit. That's
well. Now you're upsetting me.
As someone who is a certified hooper myself, sometimes
best
you have off
office?
nights.
Is that what you're saying?
I mean, easily best in the office. I don't even think it's close.
You're pretty. I've seen video. You're the only person I know that's had a camera follow you around.
I know. Well, that's not true. Eddie.
I mean, to play hoops.
Oh, well, that's just my buddy Anthony. Shout out Anthony. He just he likes to post it on his Instagram. But
Cameras follow Eddie around all the time. It's fantastic.
yeah.
So anyway, signing day live stream last night. You wrote about the defensive line on Sooner Scoop. One thing you and I talked about just kind of in the planning stages was just it was impressive to keep this. I mean, you have 2 quarterbacks in this class. You have some nice running backs. It was impressive to hold that all together with a major coaching change at the coordinator position.
Yeah, I think Seth Luttrell did a really good job of keeping most of these guys together, and I think it also speaks to the position coaches as well. I mean, Emmett Jones has done a great job. Josh has talked about that. I mean, keeping that wide receiver group together. I mean, Joe John Finley, you knew you were going to be able to keep, Devon Mitchell because he gets promoted. The running back room, Taylor Tatum. I know there was some dramatics there for a minute, but you keep that together. Xavier Robinson, all that stuff. I think Seth also too, though. I think he did a good job of keeping those 2 quarterbacks, knowing they need the depth, and I think both quarterbacks also look at it as an opportunity to potentially be the backup. Being next year, so it would make sense. Like I think Zerberg's coming in. A lot of people don't know much about him, including myself, but he's coming in wanting to compete as well. So I don't know. I think Seth Luttrell's done a great job so far, and it's an easy transition. Like that's exactly why they did it. I mean, you go out and you get a totally new offense coordinator. Maybe you're looking at losing several guys.
What was your main takeaway? And for people that haven't watched it, you and Eddie interviewed 13 different players leading up to signing day about signing with Oklahoma. What stood out most to you of the 13 guys that you talked to, other than just Danny Okoye being fantastic to talk to?
I thought Nigel Smith was really good. I thought Nigel Smith, I thought he was going to be like super soft spoken, which he is kind of a soft spoken guy, but he's intelligent, man, and you can tell that kid has a good head on his shoulders. And I thought all the guys, some guys are more quiet than others, but they're all very well spoken. They all seem to love the coaching staff. And they all are excited to be at OU, which I'm sure most guys are every year. But I don't know. They seem very bought into the vision that has been preached to them. And not to say that they shouldn't be, but like you look at the first 2 years of Brent Venables, and it went really well this year at times, but it could have been better. But these guys are really bought into whatever Brent is selling them and what they think the program can be in the future. And they're also bought into competing in the SEC. That was my takeaway. They were all very well spoken to and articulate, which is not always the case.
But go to the Sooner Scoop YouTube page. Just youtube.com/Sooner Scoop will take you right there. Subscribe, like, but a lot of good content on that. If you're not a YouTuber, I know met a guy yesterday who was an older fellow. I think we converted him to a YouTuber. That was in the office.
He was asking me about all of my personal life too.
Interesting. So it wasn't me though.
No, it was not you. But he was asking me about my dating life and why I moved to Oklahoma and all sorts of stuff.
Interesting.
It sounds like Carey has just piqued the public's interest, and now they want to know more about you, George.
I guess so. I don't know. It's been I don't know about you guys. It's been a long few weeks. The transfer portal is just like taking a toll on me. Signing day, like the fan base has gone bananas. Like it's been an explosion. I got mad at my dad the other day. We were talking on
I'm
the
mad
phone.
at all my friends because they contributed, just like you said. I mean, nonstop texting about OU stuff.
It's like I call my dad almost every day, and he always wants to, what's going on with this guy in the portal? What's going on with that? And I'm like, finally, I told my dad, I said, Dad, I don't want to talk about anything OU football related. And then he immediately asked me another question about OU football, and I was just like, that's enough. And I hung up. I was like, I'm out. Ask me about something other than football, please, for the love of God.
I actually got hit on by somebody on Facebook. That's how old I'm getting. And the intro was, hey, you love OU football. I love OU football. We should get together sometime and meet up.
Well, you should.
I would never want that.
Signed.
I would never want to be with someone that is a big OU fan. I have to get away from it at some point.
I had a girl once slide into my DMs and say that she loves Zach Bryan and I love Zach Bryan, that we should get together, and we got together.
Very nice.
It's great.
Beautiful.
So
but you don't have to talk to Zach Bryan in your daily life.
That's true.
Not what you spend your hours
doing.
Right.
You're right.
No, Tiffany is an OU fan. She absolutely is. Like OU Texas, she is on pins and needles. It's hard for me to watch the game because she's next to me and she's like, "What's happening? What's going on? Why are they doing this?" And I'm like, "Girl, I'm just trying to work. Like, just let me work." And but any other game of the year, she couldn't give a flying. She does not care. And beyond that, she doesn't want to talk it. Like, she'll run into people like that she works with or she knows, and they're like, "Oh yeah, what's going on with Dillon Gabriel?" And she's like, I don't know. I don't follow any of that. So like, that is nice. Carey's not wrong to come home and not have to have OU football conversations. I can talk to somebody else. The only truly sad news in my family that's come from OU that impacted us, Lainey had her first favorite player this year, and it was Tawee. And I had to break it to her about 2 weeks ago that Tawee was in the portal and was going to leave the team. My poor girl broke into tears.
No.
She was sad.
That is awful.
It was heartbreaking. Yeah, it was terrible. And I felt so bad. She loved Tawee because he's short and like she just liked all.
She's going to have trust
for some
issues,
reason,
though.
He hit a nerve.
She's going to have trust
100%.
issues, though, with you when she sees him playing in the bowl game. Have you explained that to her?
Oh, no. I hadn't even considered that. And we were talking about going to that game. I can't even imagine how jarring it would have been if her first OU game is Tawee's farewell and she had no idea she was actually going to see it.
This is what the transfer portal is doing to the youth of America, just breaking hearts.
It's not the youth that it's affecting. It's the olds that it's affecting. That's who are upset. I mean, it's the people that are like, "You're ruining the sport of college football." Like, they're the ones having the hard time with it.
I know. It's people like my dad.
Yeah. Which he played at OU, so he's entitled to
And my
feel however
my
he
dad's
wants.
definitely gonna be mad that I brought this up on the pod, but he's been angry with the transfer portal, which I get it.
Was Caden Green like the tipping off point for him, or was he upset before that?
I think just all of it. I mean, he's old school. I'm even old school. Like, I don't even at times. I think the portal's just gotten out of control in the way that it's the regulations and guidelines. I mean, it's craziness, and I don't know.
And it's hard too when the NCAA keeps flip flopping, and
Yeah.
it's like, okay, so for the next 14 days, there's a stay, and everyone can transfer again, even if you've transferred 5 times or whatever. I mean, and then like you see Stacey Wilkins like trying to go to another school. He doesn't need to be playing football. Like, he probably won't find another school, but it's like all these guys have so many opportunities that they think they can just jump around, and it's not reality.
And here's the issue. People ask me, they're like, well, what's the solution? I don't know what the solution is because the NCAA's dug such a big hole. I don't know if they can get out of it. Because if all of a sudden you start putting guidelines and regulations and all these new rules on it, there's going to be an uproar by the athletes, and all of a sudden it's going to go to court or whatever. And I don't know. It seems like there's too much going on. Eddie, do you want to weigh in?
No, I'm so exhausted of just all talk.
Yeah, I agree.
We can tell.
Let's talk about something other than football on a football podcast.
I was talking to a coach the other day, and I should say I have been engaged, I guess you would say, in a conversation with a state senator who would like my thoughts on NIL. Like what they can do to make it better. So I have hit up several coaches I know, and I'm trying to have like what is realistic, what can work, what can be possible. And I think the same thing comes out of everybody I talk to. They're gonna have to find a way to bargain with these guys and make actual contractual widespread rulings. And you can't do that until these guys are employees, because you can't have anything that involves. Guys, it's tough to do non-competes with workers.
Guess what, though?
Basically, volunteers, you can't do it. It's not impossible.
Guess what, though? As soon as players are employees, nobody gives a shit about donating to a collective. They're like, you're an employee.
Oh, 100%.
You're an employee. Whatever you make, you make.
Yeah.
You are employed by an employer. Like, right now, they have the benefit of all these people want to pay you more money to get you to their school because you're a student athlete. Like the guise of all that still exists. Like once, I mean, like these. I don't even know that players care if they're employees or not. We talk about taxes. They don't understand really the implications of what it means to be a student athlete versus an employee. It's not all good. Like, and I don't think anybody's fighting to be an employee. They just want a piece of the pie, basically.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know that the players would want it, but I don't think it's sustainable for the coaches and for like at some point, like you're saying, Carey, with all of this, with the exception of a few schools, they can't keep going to their big money guys over and over and over again year after year. Like eventually that well's going to run dry, and then you're going to have to figure out some way. I mean, the only guy who's not going to run dry is Phil Knight. So it's just going to be Oregon taking everybody. Because he's the only one with that kind of money and that level of investment. So I just, they're going to have to figure out some way, or the players are going to end up right back where they started, where there's no money because people are sick of throwing money at guys who are going to leave in a year anyway. Like there's going to have to be some sort of ability to marry the portal and the NIL, because the two together are just unwieldy because there's no governance over any of it.
And what I think is interesting, too, is like people are familiar with the concept of paying a player to get them. Like you go out and you recruit and he's a 5-star and like, let's get him a bag of money and get him to come here. Like that's a age-old concept. The concept of paying someone more because they're performing better, free agency kind of, like that's not going to sit well with college football fans of any age.
No. I don't know.
But you know what? If they're an employee, that's up to the school.
Yeah. I don't know. Go ahead, Josh.
Oh, I was going to, like, that's my thing. Like, and Carey, you're right. Like, people aren't going to want to give to players once they're on the payroll of the school. But then I think you also get back into a model that's more easy to understand. Then Joe Castiglione gets to go to the donors and say, hey, you're donating this money to build our new south end zone, or you're going into this, we're building a new press box, like just for aesthetics, or whatever he needs to get done. That's what they're donating to, which is what they've been donating to for 100 years. Like we know that's what that is. And the school can go back to being responsible for the players' well-being, their income, all those sort of things. And I think that's a little easier to navigate than having all these people around it. Like we've talked about over and over, the NCAA always finds a way to create handlers and people to be around the players that don't need to be around the players.
Yeah, and you're always going to have a DeVito-type agent out there.
Yeah, did you see, though, that
Peyton Manning had to apologize?
No, Tommy DeVito didn't fire the agent, but, like, removed him from doing marketing for him or something.
Over the pizza thing?
Yeah. It was stupid.
I do really feel like George is like...
I'm ready to
you just need someone to talk to you about something other than OU football. I can really feel that.
I'm ready to just go home for a couple days and then go to San Antonio. I'm really looking forward to going to San Antonio. I think it's going to be
planning our dinners for us already.
A fun trip. But yeah, we're going to a steakhouse on Christmas night.
I thought we were going to the Mexican place.
Oh, Mexican place, whatever. Domingo Restaurante.
Okay.
I know Eddie's super pumped. We're going to go to SeaWorld.
If only he were here to tell us.
I'm not super pumped about anything in San Antonio. I hate San Antonio.
Mike.
I do. It's not. I mean, it's nothing like in particular. People probably say the same thing about Oklahoma City. It's just not. There is no appeal to San Antonio for me.
You said
I like the Alamo Dome. I love the Alamo Dome. I think it's one of the best venues.
But the Alamo
sport.
itself, you oppose.
I just think it's.
I love the Alamo.
Ridiculous. It's like that's it. Okay.
I think about all the people though
it is distinctly underwhelming.
It is.
There's no question. It's not what you expect it to be.
No.
Have you watched the movie though?
No.
You need to watch the movie.
I don't care.
Watch the
movie.
movie.
The movie's so full. George, no sir. No, we're not doing this. That is just horseshit propaganda, terrible history in that whole movie.
I love it though. The thought of 100 men fighting off all these people to save their land
for about 12 minutes.
I love it.
I was telling Eddie this the other day. I used to have what was that first Texas massive message board before there was ever when Rivals was first. It was Horn something.
Was it Horn Fans?
Horn Fans. Yeah, it was Horn Fans.
Yeah, I think that's right.
No. I think Horn Fan was that the lesser site.
Well, there was Shaggy Bevo.
No, it wasn't Shaggy. I think it was Horn Fans.
Okay.
But anyway, trolls have been around forever. I think I was telling Eddie this the other day. I had a friend, and his handle, he was an OU fan, and he would go on that board and pretend to be from Texas, and he was just loved conspiracies. Like back in the day, Austin used to be the epicenter of people who believed in conspiracies, whether it was JFK or whatever. And his handle was something along the lines of Davy Crockett ran away or something like that, contending that basically he was a coward, and the history books claiming that he was some type of hero at the Alamo were not true, and that he actually was a coward and left and wasn't there when everybody died. And people got so mad about that.
Yeah, because he's a hero. He's an American hero, David
Well, he's
Crockett.
more of a Texan hero.
Whatever, he's a hero.
He didn't save America, he saved Texas.
The original Alamo
Guys.
movie with John Wayne is a classic.
Oh, God. George, maybe you shouldn't read this because it's really going to ruin a lot of the movies that you have embraced. There's a book called Brian Burrow called Forget the Alamo that talks not only about the real history of what actually happened, as much as can be confirmed, obviously, but at the same time, it talks about the fight that happens I think it's every 3 years, basically between the Texas Education Board and all the propagandists that want to believe that the Alamo was this historic moment and this great thing, when basically just a bunch of people that died unnecessarily. It could have, and I'm not
the border
saying,
was everywhere.
Houston,
yeah.
Yes. It could have been avoided if people didn't, and there's so many people that he was a hero. I can't remember. I think it's Travis that died in the first 12 seconds. One of the first shots, he died. And they're he's a hero. He didn't do anything. He just stayed there when he shouldn't have. And you're whatever. But guys, I'm
not reading.
I feel like George and Eddie want to talk about something else. And I have some Sooner Scoop related business that we need to discuss.
By the way, is anybody else getting a bunch of phone calls from Atlanta and Georgia right now?
Oh,
I don't know what's going
on.
Sooner
About
Scoop business,
2 weeks ago, I sent out gifts to every member of our staff and sent it to your home addresses. The only one who has said anything to me about it, of receiving it, was George, who sent me a very nice note, very appreciative.
I haven't checked my mail in a month and a half.
See, Eddie, yours, I wondered. I could absolutely believe that to be the case. Bob
Opening
is my
it Friday.
greater issue. Carey, I
Family
could also
Christmas.
believe.
Actually, if you
What was that?
don't...
Bob said he's opening his Friday at Family Christmas.
Okay. Fair enough, Bob. Okay, I hear you.
if you don't tell me something is coming to my house, it gets stolen by porch pirates.
Oh, no.
Because I don't go in through my front door, and it's like angled away from my garage, so I can't see if there's a package there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been there. I know what you're talking about. Okay.
Well, I don't want to spoil it for you, but it was a pretty awesome gift. So whoever
You sent me a picture of it.
Oh yeah,
But
that's
don't
right.
spoil it for Bob. Because you asked me, did I send
Yeah, because I sent both of you guys a message like, did you guys send me this? And I was like, who sent me this?
And I just remember he asked me for something that made me realize, oh, Josh did that.
It's an awesome gift. Thank you, Josh.
No, this wasn't like so Tiffany and I went through the whole like sending it. We had to go to like a little local thing and they had to send them all individually. It was no big deal, but it was one of those deals where I was like, did they get it? Like for a while we were like, did they all get lost? And it showed them all as delivered. And then George messaged me like, was probably a week ago, George. And I was like, okay, George got it. Great. And then I didn't know what had happened to anybody else's. So that was an interesting thing, which I guess we can talk about a little bit more because we don't want to ruin the surprise of Bob's family Christmas.
I thought you moved to the mailbox because that's what it said on the label.
That is exactly where that was sent from. And that was the biggest pain of the whole thing, was because, again, what I sent, there were a couple different parts. And so you had to make sure the right thing was with the right person and the right address, and it was a whole deal. So, yeah, but that was it. So,
Josh,
Eddie, I kind of predicted his answer. The other two I was not prepared.
We'll get by the mailbox today.
Yeah. Your mailman must hate you.
Josh, do I need to get you a gift in return?
100% no. That is not at all like. And Tiffany and I both were like, I hope they don't feel obligated, because that is not what we were doing. I just had an idea for the main thing, George. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that'd be kind of fun. And I was like, I want one. And I was like, well, I'll just send one to all the guys. And then it just turned into, like, slowly but surely, it turned into more and more. And finally, I was like, okay, I've spent too much time on this. I've got to be done with it.
I will get you something, and I'll give it to you when I see you next, which will probably be in the summer.
Exactly. 100%. Well, you guys in San Antonio, all these dinners, I may have to sneak over for a night or something.
Yeah.
Just
You already
come
told
have
us
dinner
you were
with
abandoning us.
So, well, I've got to go to Orlando on the 29th, 27th, 29th, something like that.
Just a magical time of the year to be in Orlando.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I love Orlando. I just can't wait. I'm tempted to fly into Tampa and just drive across the state because I hate Orlando so much.
Maybe you go see Baker. Be fun.
Yeah, there we
He might
go.
be in the Pro Bowl by then.
Baker's balling this year.
I'm so glad to see it. I mean,
They're going to give him another contract, I bet.
he was the
NFC Offensive Player
of the Week.
Yep.
Also the Nickelodeon Most Valuable Player, or whatever, MVP.
Yeah, I'd love to get slimed.
Pause.
Is that another generational thing with you and Eddie? Like, you grew up with Nickelodeon. People
I grew
being
up with
slimed and
Nickelodeon,
stuff,
yeah.
But I don't know, Eddie, did you grow up and
Yeah.
was sliming a thing?
Double
when you were growing
Dare?
up? Yeah.
Double Dare? Yeah. I was like the
Double Dare.
ground floor of the slime.
Yeah.
Double Dare, and what was the show with the big board that had all the different selections? I always wanted to be on that one. I like that one more than Double Dare. Or is that the same show? I don't think it was the same show.
What was the one with the Incan Mayan guy?
I never liked it. Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Oh, they had that thing you had to crawl at the end. I remember PFT is like obsessed.
I mean, it
with
was
that.
no Guts. Guts was the GOAT show of all time. The Aggro Crag.
Aggro Crag. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yes, I do remember that. Okay, I didn't remember Guts, but I remember that.
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Sad.
I grew up on like iCarly and
Yeah.
Drake and Josh.
We can tell.
Oh my God.
I watched a lot of Drake
My
and Josh
daughters
because of
watch
my nieces.
iCarly.
I can speak.
Drake
that.
and Josh still holds up to this day.
but
Still
they
a good
hate each
show.
other.
Yeah, they do. They hate each other in real
Like,
life.
legitimately
Which kind of
hate
makes
each
me
other.
sad because I thought they were awesome when I was a kid. But do you guys have any thoughts on housewarming gifts? My sister bought a house this week.
Burn it down.
Oh, okay.
So I'm trying
As
to
a goof.
I need to do some Christmas shopping a couple days.
Bought a house.
Hey,
She bought a house in Tulsa.
George,
Plant, that's good.
a nice cutting board is always a good choice.
Mm-hmm.
Find like a wooden one, always looks kind of nice.
I feel like the board's going to hate me on this episode.
I think
That's okay.
Josh is
we
winning.
we
so
all
far.
have that episode.
Yeah.
We all have that episode. Like,
Eddie was smart
that's
not to
okay.
participate.
That's right. I mean, if anybody needs my thoughts on anything, go listen to anything that I've done over the last week. I've exhausted all my takes.
That's my thing. Is like we
talked about it for an hour and a half last night.
We talked about every player on the and it was great. Like, go find somewhere else that has that good of a breakdown of every single player. Like, you're not going to find it. And so I've just gotten to a point. It's like, how much more can I talk about?
With smart
All
ass
these guys.
YouTube comments and actual footage of
And the
players.
Caden Green stuff, I'm just over it. Just like, people
Yeah,
need to move
I'm
on.
ready
and,
to move on.
Like, it's ridiculous. And I'm excited to talk to Dillon Gabriel today because there's a lot of stuff I just want to ask him about. Just this last year. I mean, it was kind of crazy. And I think he'll be fun. He likes us. For all the people that don't think all the people that think he doesn't like us, he loves us.
Well, it's just like the Danny Stutzman thing. It's like everybody's like, you've ruined his moment. He didn't give a shit. His dad didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
No.
Dillon's the man.
I love how
Adults can
everyone
handle these
speaks.
situations.
I love how everyone speaks for players that they don't know on social media.
Yeah.
when those players have gigantic microphones known as all their social media feeds that they could absolutely burn us down if they wanted to.
Yeah.
And they don't.
And not to mention,
we're the fun guys.
Yeah, we really not the fun, not weird guys.
Yes. We're not trying to be your best friend, but we're fun on our own.
Try and foist our kids on you.
Some of us are a little weird.
Yeah.
I mean, myself included. I think we're all a little weird. I think to be in this business, you have to be a little weird.
It's really weird that Bob screamed from the other room when you said that. I don't really see Bob as weird. He's just unique.
Eddie's done.
I'm so over it.
I don't even know what we're talking about at this point.
Eddie has like 2 of these shows.
I won that award in high school. I still don't know what it means. Most unique. That was me. Yes.
I could buy that, Bob. Bob, the biggest curveball to me about you every time is the tennis thing. Like how fascinated you are with tennis. Like I forget, and then all of a sudden
tennis.
It'll be about that time,
but
you're in it.
Yeah, it's a little. Well, I mean, you in soccer even before it was popular.
Yeah,
you could compare it to that.
I was voted.
Oh
most
God,
spirited.
What were you?
Most spirited. Like I had a lot of school spirit.
Okay. I can still sing the school fight song. I can do that. I was my alone award and my senior awards was most likely to stay single. That was my honorary title.
That's kind of harsh.
I was very open. Like I was like, marriage is awful. Never do that ever. I was very strongly against that. So I don't know why at 17 I had such a strong take on that, but I really, really did.
What a catch you got, Tiffany. What a catch.
Yeah, she's a real winner in this game of life.
I think this is a great episode. Right before Christmas, lighthearted. This is great.
A little fighting at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some bad audio thrown in that we fixed halfway through the show. Sorry about that earlier.
We'll
if you're listening now, you don't know there was a break in the middle.
I'm sure we'll do one in San Antonio, right?
Yes.
Game's on a Thursday.
I mean, look, we're going to try and do, well, now with Eddie, I'm worried about running him into the ground, but we're going to try and do some live streams and stuff like that. And the reason we're going down is the only day that we can go see practice is Christmas Day, which is stupid, but got to do what you got to do. So, I mean, there'll be tons of coverage. I think we need to just send Eddie home so he can get a nap. I mean,
I don't nap. I don't do anything. I'm here. I'm ready to roll. I just have no interest in the conversation.
Well, what do you want to talk about?
Yeah, what is
ending this? Being done with it. Starting the holiday vacation that is going to be like 24 hours before we go down to watch practice for 15 minutes.
Can we? Okay. This is it for me, and then I'm done. The only thing I ask,
if you want to do a radio show, you're more than welcome to do it on 4
Eddie's mad
4
at
hours
me.
every
Eddie's
day.
now mad at me.
He's lashing out. That's fine.
I'm not lashing out.
Okay, we'll let the public decide.
I'll save it for the next pod.
No, say what you were going to say. I want to hear it. Don't let him silence you.
Can I be on the pod intro for Christmas?
Shit, now I got to get Duke to work on Christmas too.
That seems to
There's
not
got to
be
be like a perfect moment when we finally drop the new intro, like when George is finally on it as he should.
I'm not kidding. I think either Devon Mitchell or Danny Okoye should do our intro. I'll pay them. We'll do an NIL deal. They have fantastic deep voices.
I'm in it.
We'll leave you out specifically this time, Josh.
That's fine. That's good. I don't even think you'd have to pay Danny extra. He'd just leave me out for fun.
All right. I think we do need to get out of here. Hopefully you guys, will enjoy your holidays. I'll say this. Yeah, we're tuckered out quite a bit. It's been a long couple of weeks, and we're going to look forward to getting down to San Antonio, but we are going to take a little break with our families. I know my family's driving up here tomorrow, so we're going to do a little bit of Christmas before we head down. Eskridge Lexus will be sending us, so thanks to Ed providing our transportation. And outside of that, Dillon Gabriel, keep watching for that on YouTube. That'll be out tonight. And then we'll probably go dark for a couple days until we head to San Antonio. So that'll do it. Thanks to Josh. Thanks to Eddie, sort of. Thanks to Bob. And thanks to George, who is a willing participant. I appreciate that today, George. All right, that's going to do it. We'll see you next time a week from now right here on the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com.